Some families have a child they worry about and a child they don't. The one they worry about gets attention, resources, patience, and the benefit of every doubt. The one they don't, well, she gets called self-sufficient, which sounds like a compliment until you realize it's just a polite way of saying we stopped paying attention and it worked out fine for us. This is a story about that second child, and about what happens when she finally stops being convenient. Let me set the scene for you, because context is everything, and without context, this just sounds like a family squabble. With context, it sounds like what it actually is, a masterclass in dysfunction that's been running for 22 years without a single negative review from the audience, because the audience is the dysfunction. My name is Kait. I'm 22. I go to college about 4 hours from my hometown, far enough that coming home requires actual planning, close enough that you never visit remains a viable guilt trip. I work 2 jobs, one at a campus cafe where I make approximately 1,000 lattes a week and smell like oat milk even in my dreams, and one as a part-time bookkeeper for a small accounting firm that hired me because I showed up to the interview with an actual printed resume in a folder, which apparently made me the most qualified candidate they'd seen in 2 years. I pay my own tuition. I pay my own rent. I pay my own phone bill, grocery bill, and the copay for the therapy I started 8 months ago, which, spoiler alert, is directly related to everything I'm about to tell you. I do not say any of this to brag. I say it because it is load-bearing information for the story. In my family, my self-sufficiency has never been viewed as impressive. It has been viewed as convenient. There's a difference. Impressive means people celebrate you. Convenient means people stop worrying about you so they can redirect their full emotional bandwidth towards someone else. That someone else has a name. His name is Steven. Steven is my brother. He is 27 years old. He is, by every metric my parents have ever used, the golden child, capital G, capital C, the whole glittering, underachieving package. Now, I want to be fair here, because I'm trying to grow as a person and my therapist says I should practice fairness even when it physically hurts. Steven is not a monster. He is not cruel. He is not evil. He is simply a 27-year-old man who has never once been told that the word no applies to him personally. Steven has, in the past 5 years, attempted the following careers: college student, dropped out, twice, different schools, same reason, it wasn't the right fit, which is a thing you're allowed to say when someone else is paying, bartender, quit after 3 months because the hours were brutal, and yes, he meant the evening shifts, entrepreneur, my mother gave him $800 to start a business, reselling limited edition sneakers. He bought 2 pairs for himself because they were investment pieces, freelance graphic designer. He made 1 logo for free for a friend and then retired from the industry. And most recently, streamer. Steven streams video games on the internet. He has, and I need you to hold this number in your heart, 34 followers. One of them is our mother, who made an account specifically to support him and whose username is, I promise I am not making this up, Steven's mom 1. She told me about it proudly. She said, I watch every stream. I did not ask how many other people watch. I already knew. Steven does not pay rent. Steven does not pay utilities. Steven's streaming career requires, according to my parents, complete domestic tranquility, reliable Wi-Fi, and the occasional hot pocket delivered to the room without knocking, because knocking breaks his concentration. Steven is, in the language of people who have spent too much time on Reddit and just the right amount of time in therapy, profoundly enabled. He is not doing this to be malicious. He is doing this because every single system in his life has been designed to make it the path of least resistance. You don't climb out of a hole if everyone around you has decided the hole is, actually, quite cozy. And also, have you tried adding more pillows? But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you about growing up in the Miller household, because the current situation did not arrive fully formed. It was built, brick by brick, birthday by birthday, report card by report card. I am 8 years old. I have been cast as the lead in the school play, Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, full ruby slipper situation. I had practiced my lines until I was saying them in my sleep. The night of the performance, Steven, who is 13, declares that his stomach hurts. Not hurts, mind you. No fever. No vomiting. Just a general, vague, conveniently timed stomachache that required both parents to remain home and administer sympathy. The play goes on without my family in the audience. My teacher takes a photo of me in my costume afterward and gives me a printed copy because she can see, with her professional educator eyes, that something is off. I still have that photo somewhere. Or I did. I'll get to that. I am 11 years old. I want a bike for my birthday. Not a fancy bike, just a normal bike, the kind every other kid on the street had. The kind that would mean I could ride to the library on Saturdays instead of asking for a ride and being told maybe later until the library closed. I mentioned the bike 3 times in the weeks before my birthday. I am told all 3 times we'll see. My birthday arrives. No bike. I get a card with $20 in it, and we'll take you shopping soon, which is parent language for this conversation is over. 12 days later, Steven, who is 16, gets a new gaming console. Not because it was his birthday, not because he had earned it, but because he had gotten a C on a math test and was, quote, really hard on himself about it, and my parents felt he needed a little boost. Reader, he was not hard on himself about it. I was there. He shrugged and asked what was for dinner. I am 14. I bring home a math test with a perfect score. My mother is on the phone. She gives me a thumbs up. She does not get off the phone. I am 16. I find a part-time job at a local grocery store, bagging, cart collecting, the whole glamorous experience. I tell my mother, I expect, that's amazing, we're proud of you. I receive, that's good, honey. It's important for girls to learn to be independent before they're married. Once you have a husband, you won't need to worry about all this. I'm going to need you to sit with that sentence for a moment. Before you're married, once you have a husband, you won't need to worry about all this. I was 16. I was standing in the kitchen holding my new name tag from the shop-in safe. And my mother's entire reaction to her daughter getting her first job was to frame it as a temporary inconvenience I'd be rescued from once a man showed up to take over. I did not say anything. I put my name tag in my pocket and went to my room. I have thought about that sentence at least once a month for the past 6 years. Steven, at that point 21, was upstairs playing video games and had recently explained to my father that he was taking a gap year to find himself. It was, for the record, his second gap year. Nobody mentioned husbands to Steven. Nobody suggested his independence was a placeholder until someone came to take care of him. Steven was just finding himself, and that was a perfectly valid and supported endeavor, apparently indefinitely. I am 18. I get into college, a real one, a good one, with a partial academic scholarship that I earned by studying while everyone else in my house was watching Steven's gaming streams or asking him what he wanted for dinner. I fill out the FAFSA myself. I research student loans myself. I figure out the bus schedule from campus to the nearest Target myself. My parents' reaction to all of this, a nice dinner. One dinner. And my father says, you've always been the self-sufficient one. We never had to worry about you. There it is again. We never had to worry about you. Said with such warmth, such pride. As if we didn't worry about you is the same thing as we were paying attention. As if being low maintenance is its own reward. As if the reason I was self-sufficient at 18 wasn't, in some significant part, because the other option, needing things, asking for things, having feelings about not getting things, had a pretty dismal track record in our household. Steven, at that point 23, had recently dipped out of his second college after a single semester and come back home. My parents threw him a welcome home dinner. I did not get a congratulations on college dinner. Steven got a sorry college was hard. Here's your favorite lasagna dinner. I'm not even mad about the lasagna at this point. I'm just noting it for the record. For your record. Because you need to understand the water we were all swimming in before I tell you what happened when I drove home last weekend to surprise my family and found out that I no longer had a room. Or a bed. Or, as it would turn out, any legal standing to complain about it. According to my parents, anyway. They were wrong about that last part. Spectacularly, expensively wrong. But we'll get there. If you are reading this and thinking, Kait, surely you're exaggerating. Parents can't really be this oblivious. I respect your optimism. I used to have it too. I keep it now in a box in a metaphorical garage somewhere, right next to my actual childhood belongings, which are in a literal garage, in actual boxes, getting rained on. We'll talk about that shortly. It's a Saturday morning in late March when I make the decision to go home. Not because anything dramatic happened. Not because I had some premonition, some little voice saying, "Kait, maybe call first." No. I decide to go home because I've been running on 4 hours of sleep and dining hall coffee for 3 weeks straight. My apartment radiator has been making a sound like a dying accordion since February, and I have 11 days of breaks stretching out in front of me like a gift. I want my bed. I want my mom's cooking, whatever complicated feelings come attached to it. I want to sit in my childhood room and do absolutely nothing for approximately 72 hours, and then drive back to my real life feeling like a human being again. I want, in other words, home. Adorable. I don't call ahead because I want it to be a surprise. This feels, in the moment, like a charming and spontaneous thing to do. I even stop at a gas station an hour outside of town and buy a box of those chocolate-covered pretzels my mom likes, the ones in the blue bag, because I am a good and thoughtful daughter who is about to do a sweet thing. I am, to use the technical term, cosmically unprepared for what I am driving toward. I pull into the driveway at 11:47 a.m. The house looks normal. This is the first betrayal. The house has absolutely no business looking normal. Same beige siding, same slightly lopsided mailbox my dad has been meaning to fix since 2015, same sad little garden bed where my mom grows tomatoes that never quite ripen. Nothing about the exterior says significant domestic crime has been committed within. It just looks like a house. My house, technically, but we'll table that for now. I grab my bag, grab the pretzels, and knock. Then I use my key, because I still have one, because nobody has thought to ask for it back yet. My mother appears from the kitchen. She's wearing her weekend cardigan. She has a specific cardigan she only wears on weekends. Pale yellow, slightly pilled at the elbows, deeply beloved, and her expression when she sees me does something I can only describe as a very fast series of emotions running across her face like a nature documentary on fast forward. Surprise. Pleasure. And then, just for a half second, just enough for me to clock it before she overwrites it, something that looked uncomfortably like panic. "Kait, oh my goodness, you didn't say you were coming." "That's why it's a surprise," I say, smiling, holding up the pretzels. "I brought your." "That is so sweet." She takes the pretzels with both hands and immediately turns back toward the kitchen. "Are you hungry?" "I have soup on." Steven is. Steven's upstairs. He's been working really hard on his stream this week. We should probably keep it down a little. "Sure," I say, because I don't yet know that I need to be paying closer attention. I drop my bag by the door. I stretch. I breathe in the specific smell of my childhood home. A combination of my mother's lavender cleaning spray, something always simmering on the stove, and the particular type of carpet that hasn't been replaced since 2003. It smells like home. And then I go to put my bag in my room. My room is the second door on the left at the top of the stairs. It is, or it was, a modest room. Not large. Pale blue walls that I picked out at 13 and never repainted because the color had grown on me. A bed with a white iron frame that I'd had since I was 14 and which squeaked if you sat on it too fast but was, nonetheless, mine. A desk by the window where I'd done 8 years of homework. A bookshelf with actual books on it. A small mirror on the wall that had belonged to my grandmother. Normal. Modest. Mine. I go to open the door. It is locked. I stand there for a moment, hand on the doorknob, processing this. My room has never been locked. My room doesn't lock from the outside. I don't even know when we got a lock that could do that. "Mom." I call downstairs. My door is locked. A pause. A pause that is one beat too long. "Oh, I'll come up." I should probably. I'll just come up. She materializes at the top of the stairs with the energy of a woman who has been preparing a speech but is not confident in the material. She is holding her own keys. House keys. With, attached to the ring, a small key I have never seen before in my life. A key to my room. A key that my mother has. To my room. "So," she begins, "we made a few changes." She opens the door. I would like to take a moment here to describe what I see, because I feel that the details matter. I feel that in 10 years, when I tell this story at dinner parties, and I will tell this story at dinner parties, it is already achieving dinner party status in real time. The details will be the thing that makes people put down their wine glasses. The pale blue walls are still there. This is the only thing that remains. The bed is gone. Not moved, not relocated. Gone. In its place, positioned with the careful precision of someone who has watched too many gaming setup tour videos on YouTube, sits a desk roughly 3 times the size of my old one, housing 3 monitors. 3. A holy trinity of screens, each displaying a different thing. One with a game paused mid-frame, one with what appears to be streaming software, and one with a browser open to a forum thread I don't want to read closely enough to identify. The bookshelf is gone. The books are not. The books are. Actually, I don't see the books. I will find out where the books are later. In the garage. In a box that is slowly composting itself. The small mirror that belonged to my grandmother, the one she'd had in her bedroom her entire adult life. Oval, slightly foxed around the edges, which she had specifically pointed at when she told me, "This one's yours, sweetheart," is gone. On the wall where it hung, there is now a microphone arm, the kind that clips to a desk and swings out in front of your face when you're streaming. It is bolted directly into the wall where my grandmother's mirror was. But honestly, all of it, is almost secondary to what I noticed next. The smell. I don't know how to explain the smell of a 27-year-old man's gaming room that has been lived in for what I will later discover is 6 weeks without adequate ventilation, but I will try. It is 3 empty pizza boxes stacked in the corner. It is approximately 11 cans of energy drinks in various states of empty, arranged along the windowsill like the world's most depressing skyline. It is a gym bag by the door that I genuinely believe has not been opened since it was placed there. It is, above all else, the socks. The socks are on my desk. Not in a hamper. Not beside the desk. Not on the floor, which would at least suggest they'd been in the general direction of somewhere to put them. On the desk. On the desk where I studied for my SATs. Just socks. Living there. As citizens. As if they had always lived there. As if this was simply what desks were for. I count 4 individual socks before I have to stop counting because I'm concerned about my blood pressure. "We thought you probably wouldn't come home this break," my mother says from the doorway, in the tone of someone offering a reasonable explanation, which this is not. "You stayed at school over winter break, and last Thanksgiving you said." "I stayed over winter break because I was working double shifts and I sent you a text about it," I say. My voice is very calm. I have the voice of a woman who is calm in the way that a submarine is calm. Everything is technically quiet, but there is a lot of pressure and depth involved. "I told you I was coming for spring break in February. I texted you." My mother looks briefly pained. I must have missed that. It was iMessage. It shows as read. A pause. Stephen really needed the space, Kait. He's been working so hard. Where, I say, are my things? This is the moment where my mother's face does something complicated and she says the word garage in the gentle, careful way people usually say words like biopsy or audit. The garage is not climate controlled. The garage, in March, is approximately the temperature of a firm handshake from someone who's been outside too long. I know this because I'm standing in it now, in my coat, holding a flashlight on my phone, staring at 4 cardboard boxes stacked in the far corner next to my dad's and used rowing machine and a tarp covering something I've never had the curiosity to investigate. The boxes have been there long enough for the bottom ones to absorb moisture from the concrete floor. The cardboard has gone soft, that particular saturated give of wet cardboard that lets you know things inside are not doing well. I open the first box. Books. My books, the ones from the shelf, the ones I'd collected since I was 10 years old, the ones I'd sometimes looked at just to feel like I was in a place that was mine. They're warped. The paperbacks have swollen at the edges, pages ruffled from humidity. A copy of Jane Eyre I've had since 8th grade has a cover that's peeling and curling up at the corners like it's trying to escape. I open the second box. This is the box with the photos. There is a photo from my high school graduation, the one where I'm laughing at something someone said right as the shutter clicked, caught genuinely happy, which is a rare and valuable thing in photographs. The paper has waved and rippled from moisture. The image is still visible, but the surface is uneven, damaged, the kind of damage that is permanent and unfixable and that you can look at for the rest of your life and know exactly what it looked like before. The third box. My grandmother's things. I want to stop here for a second because I need you to understand something about my grandmother before I describe what I find. My grandmother, my mother's mother, Nana June, was not a soft woman. She was not someone who talked about feelings in direct terms. She showed love through extremely specific actions. She remembered exactly how you liked your eggs. She saved newspaper clippings about things you'd mentioned you were interested in. She gave you things that had mattered to her, and she did it while looking you directly in the eye, so you knew it wasn't an accident. When I was 19, sitting in her living room during what would turn out to be one of her last really lucid visits, she pointed at the small wooden jewelry box on her dresser. Oval, cherry wood, brass hinges, the kind of box that had clearly been handled 10,000 times over decades. And she said, "That one's yours when I'm gone. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." She said, "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." That was the specific phrasing. Like she knew. Like she had a sense of the architecture of our family and where its stress fractures were. I pick up the box. The lid is broken. The left hinge has given way, and the lid sits at an angle, half open, unable to close. Something was placed on top of it. Something heavy, placed by someone who was not thinking about what was underneath, or who was thinking about it and decided it didn't matter. Inside, her ring, her brooch, a small enamel bluebird, chipped now at the tail from when the lid came down wrong. The small icon she kept on her nightstand her entire life. All still there. All undamaged, miraculously, except for the brooch. I stand in the cold garage for a long time. I am not crying. I want to be clear about that. I am not the crying type in the middle of things. I'm more the stare at a fixed point on the wall and do complex internal mathematics type. I am doing that now. The math I am doing is 6 weeks, the apparent timeline of this renovation, plus 4 hours, my drive, plus 22 years, the running total of this particular family dynamic, equals something that has a name, and the name is enough. I pick up the box. I carry it inside with me. I am going to need it for later. I find my mother in the kitchen and I ask her, with the vocal effect of someone defusing a bomb in a movie, why nobody called me. "We didn't want to worry you," she says. "You're always so busy." So instead of calling me, I say, "You put my grandmother's jewelry box in a garage in March." "Kait, it's not. We were careful. The lid is broken." Silence. Steven needed. "Mom." I set the box on the kitchen counter. Gently. "Where am I sleeping?" My mother looks at me with the expression of a woman who has a plan that she knows, on some level, is a bad plan, but is committed to presenting it as reasonable. "Well," she says, "we thought, just for tonight, the living room couch is very comfortable," or, "Your father had an idea about the laundry room. There's space in there, and the dryer keeps it warm." I look at her. "It's cozy," she adds. "We put the air mattress in there. It'd just be until Steven finishes the thing he's working on." What thing? The level. In this game. He can't really pause it. It's one of those. "Mom." "Online things. Where if you leave." "Mom." She stops. "I'm going to go take a walk," I say. "And when I come back, Dad will be home. And I think we should have dinner together. As a family." I say the last part in a specific way. My mother, who knows me, hears the specific way. "Kait, I'll pick up something on the way back," I say. "I saw there's a new Thai place. Does everyone still like pad Thai?" I take my car keys off the counter. I leave. I drive around for 45 minutes listening to the angriest playlist I have on my phone. Then I stop at the Thai place. I get enough for 6 because I know that by the time I get back, my aunt and uncle will have been called. I know because that's how this family works. I know because I've been watching it work this way my entire life. I know because I came home with a broken jewelry box and a 30-day deadline forming in the back of my mind like a weather system. And I am, as my family has always said, the prepared one. I walk back in at 6 p.m. with 4 bags of Thai food and the energy of a woman who has made a decision. The car in the driveway that wasn't there before belongs to my Aunt Margie and Uncle Dan. Hold it. Margie is my mother's older sister and the family's designated emotional first responder. She deploys within the hour whenever there's conflict, arrives with casserole energy even when she's empty-handed, and has never once in her life taken a side that inconvenienced my mother. Uncle Dan follows her everywhere and agrees with everything she says. He is, functionally, A nodding lamp. I walk into the dining room and do a head count. Mom. Dad. Rick, who has the energy of a man who was briefed on the situation in the car and is hoping it resolves itself without him. Aunt Margie, arranged in her chair like a mediator at the UN. Uncle Dan, nodding at nothing. And Stephen, who is physically present but spiritually still upstairs, scrolling his phone with the detached serenity of someone who has never once been told that the world does not actually revolve around him, and therefore has no reason to suspect otherwise. Nobody has set the table. I set the table. Of course I do. We eat for approximately 4 minutes in the kind of silence that has a shape, dense and specific, the silence of a room full of people waiting for someone to go first. My father goes first. So, he sets down his fork with the gravitas of a man about to say something he has rehearsed. Kait, we know this isn't ideal. The garage, Dad. And we understand you're upset. The garage, I repeat. In March. It wasn't supposed to rain this week, my mother offers. I look at her. That's not the point I'm making, Mom. Kait. Aunt Margie deploys her voice, which is warm and reasonable and specifically designed to make you feel like you're the problem for not being warm and reasonable back. I think what your parents are trying to say is that the family needed to make some adjustments, and sometimes adjustments are uncomfortable for everyone. Her grandmother's jewelry box is broken. I say. The hinge gave out because someone stacked something heavy on it. Brief silence. Even Dan stops nodding. That's unfortunate, Margie says carefully. It is, I agree. It really is. Stephen, across the table, has not looked up from his phone. Stephen, my dad says, with the specific tone parents use when they want their child to perform basic humanity for an audience. Can you put the phone down? Stephen puts the phone face down on the table. This is his contribution to the evening. My dad clears his throat and pivots to solutions, which is his preferred mode. Skip the accountability portion, go straight to logistics. Here's what we're thinking. Just for the break, while you're here, the air mattress in the laundry room is actually pretty comfortable. Your mother put it up last week for when? Why was the air mattress up last week? A pause. We had Margie and Dan over, my mother says. I look at Margie and Dan. You slept in an actual guest room, didn't you? I say. Margie has the decency to look slightly uncomfortable. Dan nods, then seems to realize what he's nodding at and stops. The laundry room, I say, returning to my father, is where you want me to sleep. While my brother, who does not pay rent, who does not pay utilities, who has 34 followers on Twitch. 37 now, Stephen says, without looking up, and honestly I have to respect the audacity. 37 followers, sleeps in my bed, which no longer exists. In my room, which is now his room. I pause. And this arrangement makes sense to everyone at this table. He's going through a hard time, my mother says, and the words land with the comfortable ease of something that has been said so many times it no longer requires examination. Stephen is always going through a hard time. The hard time is permanent and pre-approved and grants indefinite immunity from consequences. What specifically is hard? I ask. I'm asking genuinely. What is the hard thing? My mother opens her mouth. The streaming isn't taking off the way he hoped, my dad says, and he says it with such sincere paternal sympathy that for a second I almost feel it too. Then I remember the garage, the wet cardboard, the broken hinge. Okay, I say. I lean back in my chair. I hear that. Rejection is hard. Disappointment is hard. I look at Stephen directly for the first time tonight. Stephen, I'm sorry the streaming isn't where you want it to be. Stephen looks up, slightly suspicious of the sincerity. But I need to say something now. I continue, and I need everyone to actually listen, because I'm going to say it once. I reach into the bag I brought to the table with me, my tote bag, the one I carried in from the car, which my mother had assumed contained nothing of note. It contains a folder. I put the folder on the table. This house belongs to me. Complete silence. The kind that is weight. Nana June left it to me. Not to the family. Not to my parents. To me, specifically, with a condition of lifetime residency for Mom and Dad, because she wasn't cruel. She just wasn't confused about who she trusted with the asset. I open the folder. This is the deed. This is the probate filing. This is a letter from the estate attorney dated 2 years ago confirming the transfer. I slide the deed to the center of the table. My father's jaw is doing something complicated. You've been living here as residents under a lifetime tenancy provision. I continue, which is a real legal thing that I've had explained to me. It means you have the right to live here. It does not mean you have the right to renovate it, remove structural fixtures, discard personal property belonging to the owner, or reassign rooms without the owner's consent. I pause. I am the owner. Kait. My dad's voice has shifted into a register I've never quite heard from him. Lower, careful, stripped of the confident dad tone. We didn't think. No, I agree. You didn't. You never said anything about the house. Because I wasn't planning to. I wasn't going to walk in here and wave a deed around like a weapon. I was going to come home, sleep in my bed, eat mom's soup, and leave without any of this. I gesture at the table, the folder, the general atmosphere of a dinner party that has taken a turn. That was the plan. Honey, my mother says, and her voice has gone soft in a way that usually works on me. The specific maternal softness that bypasses logic and goes straight for the guilt. We're still your family. I know, I say. I know you are. Which is why I'm not calling the attorney tonight. I close the folder. I'm giving 30 days. That's more than fair. The room goes back. The monitors, the setup, the socks, especially the socks, all of it. My things come in from the garage. The jewelry box gets repaired professionally, and I have someone in mind who can do it. I stand up and pick up my bag. And I'm staying at the Marriott on 5th tonight, because I'm not sleeping on an air mattress in the laundry room while my brother finishes a level. You're being dramatic, Aunt Margie says. I look at her with genuine warmth. Margie, I say, I love you. But you drove here in under an hour on a Saturday night specifically to tell me to calm down. And I think, if you sit with that for a second, you'll understand why I'm not going to take the note. Dan nods. He can't help it. It's a reflex. I pick up my grandmother's jewelry box from where I'd set it by my chair. Dinner was good. I say, I like the new Thai place. And I leave. I am in my car in the Marriott parking lot at 8:43 p.m., and I have 7 missed calls, 2 from Mom, 1 from Dad, 3 from Margie, and 1 from a number I don't recognize that is almost certainly a cousin who's been activated by the family phone tree. I do not call any of them back. I text my college roommate, "You're not going to believe this." I text my friend Lena, who is in her 2nd year of law school. "Hey, remember when you said call you if it ever got real?" She responds in 4 minutes. "Oh, it's real time." "It's real time," I write back. I sit in the parking lot for a while longer, holding the jewelry box in my lap, the broken lid at its wrong angle, the little brass hinge that gave out under the weight of someone else's indifference. Nana June, I think, would have had something extremely dry and precise to say about all of this. She always did. Sunday morning. Marriott breakfast buffet. Scrambled eggs that taste like a corporate apology. My phone has 43 notifications. I pour coffee and start reading. The family group chat, which is called, I kid you not, Miller Family, has achieved a kind of unhinged energy usually reserved for group chats after a wedding open bar. Mom has sent 11 messages ranging from "Kait, please call me" to "This isn't what Nana would have wanted too," my personal favorite. The air mattress is actually very good quality. It's a Coleman. Dad has sent 2 messages. Both say call me. Classic Rick. Minimum words. Maximum expectation that the problem resolves itself. Aunt Margie has written a paragraph. I can tell she typed it on a laptop because it has punctuation. It contains the phrase, "tearing this family apart," and the word "ungrateful," which, honestly, bold choice from the woman who showed up uninvited to tell me to sleep in a laundry room. Stephen has sent nothing. Stephen is, presumably, still on his complex level. I text Lena, "What's your attorney friend's number?" She responds in 30 seconds with a contact card and the message. "His name is Patrick. He's good. Tell him I sent you." Also NTA, obviously. I call Patrick at 10 a.m. Patrick is a real estate and property attorney who speaks in the measured, slightly bored tone of someone who has seen everything and is no longer surprised by any of it. I explain the situation in 4 minutes. He is quiet for a moment. "So the deed is in your name, clear title, with a life estate provision for the parents." "Correct. And they renovated without your consent, disposed of your personal property, and are currently denying you access to the primary bedroom." "Also correct." and you gave them 30 days verbally. At dinner, in front of witnesses. A pause that sounds almost like appreciation. Do you want to formalize that? Very much yes. I say. Patrick drafts a letter. It goes out Tuesday, certified mail, with a return receipt. It is 2 pages long and contains the phrase unauthorized modification of the property and disposal of owner's personal effects without consent. It also contains a number, a modest but specific dollar figure representing the estimated replacement value of damaged items, including the jewelry box repair, the warped books, and the water-damaged photographs. It is, Patrick tells me, a polite letter. But, he adds, it is polite in the way that a letter from an attorney is always polite. I know exactly what he means. The letter arrives Thursday. I know it arrives Thursday because my mother calls me at 11:47 a.m. and she is using her different voice. Not the warm cardigan voice, not the guilt deployment voice, but a new voice I have never heard before. Small. Careful. The voice of someone holding 2 pages of legal stationery and suddenly doing new math. Kait, we got a letter. I know. From an attorney. I know, Mom. A long pause. Your father wants to know if we need to get our own attorney. You don't need an attorney, I say. You need to restore the room. What happens next takes about a week and is, by all accounts, chaotic. My parents hire 2 guys from a local moving service to haul Steven's setup out of my room. This requires Steven to be informed that the setup is being moved. Steven's reaction to this information is, and my mother relayed this to me with the exhausted tone of a woman finally seeing something clearly, to announce that if his streaming setup gets moved, he is moving out. My parents, operating apparently on the new frequency introduced by Patrick's letter, say, okay. Steven does not expect this response. Steven has deployed this threat before, probably, and it has never before been received as a logistical confirmation. He recalibrates. He says he's serious. My parents say they know. He says he'll really do it. My dad says the movers are coming Tuesday, Steven. Steven moves out on Monday, preemptively, to his friend Cody's apartment across town. Cody, from what I can gather, has a 2-bedroom apartment, a roommate, and absolutely no infrastructure for hosting a man who has never done his own laundry, buys nothing for the kitchen, and needs complete domestic silence to stream to his, at this point, 39 followers. Within 72 hours of moving in with Cody, Steven calls my mother to ask how to work the washing machine. Not Cody's washing machine. Washing machines in general. My mother tells me this story. There is a tone in her voice I haven't heard before. Not quite regret, not quite humor, somewhere in the exhausted territory between the two. Like a woman who has been holding a very heavy thing for a very long time and has just set it down and her arms hurt, but also the relief. I don't say anything. Some things don't need commentary. I drive the 4 hours back. Pull into the driveway. Same beige siding, same mailbox. I sit in the car for a second, hands on the wheel, doing absolutely nothing. Then I go inside. My room is my room again. The walls are the same pale blue. Someone patched the bolt holes from the microphone arm. Not perfectly, but genuinely, which counts for something. The RGB wires are gone. The monitors are gone. The socks are gone, and I choose to believe they were disposed of humanely. My books are back on the shelf, the damaged ones replaced. My mother ordered new copies. I discover of everything that was warped beyond reading. She didn't mention this on the phone. She just did it. It's not an apology in so many words, but it is an apology in the only language some people have. Little update about Cody and Steven. Cody, to his credit, held out for about 3 weeks before having what my mother described as a gentle conversation with Steven, which, translated from roommate speak, means you need to contribute to this household or this situation is not sustainable. Cody had a job. Cody paid rent. Cody bought groceries and expected them to not simply disappear without replacement. Cody was, in other words, a functioning adult, and living with one turns out to be deeply inconvenient if you are not. Steven did not come home. This is the part that surprised me, honestly. I expected him to last a month, declare victory on some technicality, and show back up with his gaming chair. But Steven, whatever else he is, has the one quality that I never fully credited him with. He is stubborn. He had made an exit. Coming back meant admitting the exit was a mistake, and that was apparently a price he wasn't willing to pay. So instead, he did something none of us predicted. He got a job. Not a career. Not a calling. A job, warehouse work, 3 days a week, the kind of employment that asks nothing of your personality and everything of your lower back. He got it because Cody's friend was a shift supervisor and put in a word. He took it because rent, it turns out, is a monthly event that does not care about your streaming schedule or your personal journey. My mother told me all of this in a phone call. Her voice had the specific texture of a woman processing complicated emotions in real time. Proud, guilty, slightly stunned, like someone who planted what they thought was a decorative shrub and came outside one morning to find it had grown into something structural. He's doing well, she said. He seems different. I didn't say. He seems like a person who is experiencing consequences for the first time at 27. I said, that's good, Mom. I mean that. And I did. I actually did. Kait won, not because she was lucky, not because the system worked the way it should, but because she finally decided to fight. The sad part isn't the legal letters, or the 30-day deadline, or even the broken jewelry box. The sad part is that she had to fight it all. That family somehow became the thing she needed protection from. Some people's family is their safe place. Kait's family was a house she legally owned and a room she had to reclaim with an attorney's help. She got it back. That counts. It just shouldn't have been this hard. If you grew up as the low maintenance one in your family, you know exactly how this story feels. Drop it in the comments. And if you want more stories about people finally, spectacularly, legally refusing to be convenient, you know what to do.